Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back once again to a Good Cup of Coffee podcast. I'm your host, Noah Wagner.
I'm co-host Seth Pippin.
And we finally did it. We got David from Fresh Grounds on the pod. So we're excited. David, how are you doing today?
Doing well. Thank you for having me on. I love the podcast.
Well, thank you, sir. We were talking before we came on here, just really just kind of a little bit of your story, and excited to dig into that a little bit more. You and your wife you do just incredible stuff for our community as far as leading out at the coffee shop. It's kind of a staple. It's become a staple in Bonifay.
Oh, it's M&W and Fresh Grounds.
Right? That's right. They're right there.
Those are the two places if you come to Bonifay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the Holiday, Fresh Grounds, M&W, and Donut Land.
That's right.
Or Big John. Sorry.
Yeah.
Those are like the three things in Bonifay that you have to go try.
Yeah,
That's high praise. Wow.
Yeah. Well, it's fantastic, and I mean, you know that because you work there. You help establish a lot of the stuff that's going on, and you brought us coffee.
You did.
And so we're excited. So, well, what are you drinking? Because we didn't even talk about that.
I'm drinking a latte.
Okay.
With an extra shot, but trying to make it as much like a flat white as possible.
Okay.
Okay.
Which is maybe a hot take that I sort of think that flat white's not a real thing.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
We have a regular that comes in, and every time he gets a flat white, but he doesn't actually get a flat white. He just gets non-foam steam milk on top of pot coffee.
Yeah, that's kind of where I am on it. I think that they're probably like if you go to New Zealand or Australia, you're probably going to get a flat white, but because it's so commonly done wrong in the United States, it's probably a pretty rare drink.
Yeah. That's like what's the Starbucks drink? The caramel macchiato?
Yeah.
It's like you don't know what a macchiato is.
No, you don't want a macchiato.
Right. Yeah.
But this is very good. It's I always do an extra shot because I think if you're trying to do a flat white, you want more coffee than milk kind of coming through.
Sure.
And I generally don't do a lot of flavor in my coffee. I'll do a vanilla once in a while, half syrup. That's kind of my go-to. Yeah,
and we were talking before as well that Seth, you're like a 90-10 iced guy.
Yep, 90 iced, 10 hot.
Yeah, and David, you're like, you said a 99 hot guy.
99% hot. Yeah. Once in a while, like as a dessert drink or something, I'll get something iced.
Oh, this one that you gave me is definitely
dessert. So what do you got?
So help me with this, but I believe it's just a dirty vanilla chai with oat milk.
That's what it is.
Perfect.
Yeah.
It's really good. I can't tell that there's oat milk in here, which I love. Usually oat milk sometimes. It was one of my hot takes at one point, but sometimes oat milk just kind of destroys the
overpowers.
Drink. Yeah. It just makes it not drinkable at times. But yeah, this is really good. I love.
And you notice that they misspelled chai on yours for you.
Did they?
A common mistake.
Yeah. CHIA.
Yeah.
What is it? CHAI?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then mine is caramel apple butter Deanna. So my wife is Deanna.
Right.
She has a drink named after her at the Fresh Grounds. I'm going to be honest, David, I don't even know what's in a Deanna.
A Deanna is normally going to be spiced brown sugar.
Okay.
Half scoop of chai, caramel cold foam.
Okay.
But for you, we did, instead of the spiced brown sugar, the caramel apple butter. And then just kept the caramel cold foam because that seemed to fit nicely.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's very good. And we've talked on this podcast about like, I love anything apple. And I mean, it's funny that David, yesterday we were texting back and forth, and I just kind of mentioned like, we'd love some coffee. And he said, well, what do you want? And I said, surprises. And I had full confidence that what David was going to bring, because he knows us so well, we go all the time, that he was going to bring something fantastic, and he did.
Literally inside of my budget, I have just a line for podcast coffee. That's literally what it says.
Nice.
It says podcast coffee, and then my fiance all the times asks me, she's like, "Why do you have to get a copy every time?" I'm like, I don't have to.
Right.
But like
we have to talk about coffee. That's like a big point of it.
About 10% of the podcast is the first 10 minutes we talk about coffee. If we just always have K-Cups.
Yeah, it's Keurig or
like, what are we doing?
Or if our budget allows, we'll go to the coffee shop. Right. And today we got a special treat.
Hopefully next week we'll have a special treat from your father.
Yeah, my dad, called me the other day. I don't know if you heard this, but he called me the other day and said, nobody wants to hear about your bad coffee hot takes. So to remedy that, I'm going to send you good coffee.
Good coffee. Okay.
But he hadn't done that yet, so we haven't gotten it.
Well, we're going to have to talk about bad coffee then.
That we will.
We're
going to do it.
Last podcast, I said, I'm going to continue to make bad hot takes until you send us coffee. So if he's listening, he's got to listen through it.
That's right.
We're not even going to get timestamps so he can skip through. That's the only reason that we're doing that.
That's funny. All right. Well, that's all good. This coffee is all good. But we want to talk a little bit about, David, just you and kind of where you came from. So I know a little bit about your story and your background, but not a lot. And so I'm excited to hear just kind of your salvation story, how you came to know Christ, and then your life following your salvation, and then how you got to Bonifay in the role that you're in now.
All right. Well, I grew up actually overseas. My parents were missionaries in Brazil. And so I was born there in the northern part of Brazil and lived mostly in Brazil. We would come back to the States for furlough years, but lived mostly in Brazil until I was 16 and loved my life there. Wonderful.
So are you dual citizen?
I'm a dual citizen,
okay.
Yeah. Okay. And so that was, I think some people have tough experiences as missionary kids. Mine was awesome. I loved it. I loved being there. I loved coming back to the U.S. I liked both. Coming back is often a really hard thing for missionary kids, or even adults who spend most of their life overseas. And I've definitely found that. I think I found that more as an adult than as a kid. It was harder to transition back as an adult. But so that was kind of my early life, was living as a missionary kid, working, like not working, but being there with my parents as they did their ministry. My dad mostly taught in Bible schools and did a pretty good amount of evangelism, like going around and preaching different places. But he wasn't just like a pastor at one place.
Yeah.
He mostly taught in Bible schools and helped develop curriculum and stuff like that. My mom mostly worked with music and with youth, and so that was kind of her side of the ministry. Then in the 90s, they ended up moving to West Africa to work with Portuguese-speaking Africa, which is kind of like Cape Verde, which is some islands, and then you've got Guinea-Bissau, and there's a few more Portuguese former colonies that are over there. So during that period, I was in a boarding school in Senegal in West Africa, and Michelle, my wife, was also at the same boarding school, and we came at the same time. Matter of fact, we were the first, I think, other students that met each other. Like we were the first people that we met that were not part of our family. So that was kind of cool. And I mean, there was nothing to it at that point, except that I thought she was pretty.
Was her family also missionaries?
They were, yeah. Okay. They were working at the school.
Okay.
That we were both there at. So I was in the boarding program, and her family lived just off campus. And so we did become quick friends, and I did think she was really cute, and that went on for quite a long time. That might be a whole different podcast about how not to date. But so eventually, I graduated high school, came back to the States, lived in Florida, and was going to school. And after Michelle and I finally did get married, we both knew that we wanted to work in missions. We knew a couple things. We wanted to work in missions, and we wanted to work in more like a support role. We wanted to do the things that let missionaries do what they do really well.
Wow.
We didn't feel super equipped to do like church planting or Bible school teaching or those kinds of things, but we felt really equipped to support them in other ways.
Wow.
And so we were looking for different ways that we could do that. And one thing that came up was the idea of helping with boarding schools And we saw that the school that we had both attended in Senegal was looking for people to help in that area. And so we went over thinking we were going to go for 2 years, because we kind of thought, like, we'll just do this and then we will have done kind of what we think we need to do. And we ended up doing that for 16 years.
Wow.
And so we were all at the same place. We did do a few different roles, but we did 10 years of doing taking care of missionaries' kids in the boarding homes. And we found that that's a super important thing.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
If you've ever heard the stories of missionaries who put their kids in boarding school, it's terribly difficult on them. It's just like, it's one of the hardest things that you can do to, leave your child maybe in sometimes as early as 6th grade. But normally it's going to be high school age. But to leave them, it's like you're not prepared for kind of like them graduating, leaving the house.
Is boarding school like a pretty common thing for missionaries, or is it that specific area that you were in?
It's pretty common in that area, because the distribution of English schools is just not as common, because it's all mostly French colonies all throughout West Africa. So you just have a lack of American style education that would translate easily. So they end up having to send their kids to boarding school somewhere, either in East Africa or in Southern Europe or in West Africa. And so that's one part, is just the parents have to go through this kind of really difficult time. We wanted to support them so that they could know that they could do their work, often in really remote places where we weren't going to be going, and where sometimes it wasn't even safe. Yeah. And we could be taking care of their kids. So that was one part of it that was a passion for us. And the other part is just the discipleship of these students that they're just living in your home. We would have maybe between 8 and 15 kids living in our dorm. And, they normally a parent would be discipling. Yeah. And so we didn't want that to get lost. So it was super important to us to, one, live it out in front of them. Yeah. So they could see what it is to be a godly man or woman. And then also, the real, like, direct hands-on discipling of doing devotions and talking about things and trying to relate them directly to, like, this is how you should be living right now. These are the kind of goals you should be having in your life, of how you want to live in the future. And we really loved it. It's a really difficult job, actually, to raise other people's kids. Yeah, absolutely. Of course. They come in, of course, with their own background. But it's something that we really enjoyed and we're very passionate about. And then towards the end of our time there, I was moved into more like a youth pastor type role. Okay. And did that for a few years and really, really loved that as well. I think, like, all those years of working with students just kind of prepared me for that. And I absolutely loved it. I love working with students. I got more into, like, the teaching, preaching side of it, and did a lot of, like, one-on-one discipleship. Yeah. And just really loved it. It kind of expanded. So instead of it being like maybe 10, 15 kids, it was, a campus. Right. Wow. And that's kind of had to, like, because I was mostly supposed to be doing, like, middle school, high school, but we also had elementary. And so I tried to develop relationships with them as well. Sure. And that became more of a broad thing, not just for missionaries, but the whole community. Yeah. And so that was a really neat thing. Yeah, that's really awesome. And like you said, having the heart, it's one of the things that we've talked about as we've thought through, okay, what does it look like for us to support missionaries that are on the field? A lot of times we look at ways that when we take trips that we can do exactly that, right? What are roles that we can participate in where we can come and take something off the shoulders of the missionary so that they can go and effectively do what they're called to do. Especially, like, it's one thing when you're planted there, but when we're coming to visit, we're not the ones that are developing discipleship relationships with them. And so what are things that we can do so that they can do that effectively even after we leave? Right.
And I think that's all incredibly important. And really shows like your heart for the mission of God, to come alongside people that are called into that. Now, what led to you guys coming back home? You said you were in Senegal for 16 years.
Mm-hmm.
What was kind of like that moment where you said, okay, now it's time? Was, as far as the Lord leading you this way, and then kind of how did you end up back in this area?
It's kind of two things. I think that one was that we had this heart and this passion for what we were doing, and for really supporting missionaries very specifically, even though we had developed a lot of really wonderful relationships with both the national staff and with the non-missionary families. But our real heart was for missionary families. And our school was starting to sort of change directions a bit and starting to kind of in the early phases of probably what will ultimately be more like an international school versus a very missionary focused school. Looking probably for more like financial viability for the future.
Yeah.
But it didn't match with what our deep passions were. So that was one part of it. And there was a lot of difficulty with that, a lot of hurt, a lot of difficult stuff as you go through transitions, and you start seeing mission changing in front of you. We definitely came out with some wounds from that as well. So that definitely played a role in it. But then at the same time, my dad was going into kind of the second phase of dementia. And we didn't even realize kind of where things were. My mom wasn't like saying like, hey, I need you to come back.
Sure.
She was being very like, hey, we're fine. But we started recognizing like more and more like, okay, I think we're needed.
Yeah.
And when they left the mission field, came to Bonifay to be part of Carmel Church in the Bethlehem area. And so my dad had been on staff there for several years. So that's how they ended up here. And so then when we recognized both that our mission was changing and that our parents now had a need for us, we just said, okay, well, then I guess we're going to be in Bonifay. And so that's how we ended up back in this area.
Yeah. How did you get plugged in? I know, so Carmel Church, they kind of established and run Fresh Grounds. And I know, and I'll let you speak into kind of the heart and the goal and the purpose of that coffee shop and its involvement in missions. How did you get involved at Fresh Grounds and then in leadership as well?
I had been working at a factory in Chipley, which was not my dream.
Right.
Right. I don't think it's anybody's dream.
Yeah, a lot of people don't dream about working at a factory.
There's probably a couple.
Some people might.
There.
Yeah, and it turned out everyone who worked there, same experience. They also did not have a dream of working at a factory. Yeah. But I had been working there, and to be honest, they were super nice people, and I really did like them. They were super, super great people to work for. But it was just not super fulfilling work for me.
Right.
And so I was saying something about that one day actually talking to the pastor of Carmel. He was at our house visiting my dad. And he said, well, do you want to run the coffee shop? And I just said, yes, I do. I do. That's what I want to do.
Yeah.
Anything else?
There's some things that you pray about. And then some things I think the Lord was in that one.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. So I said, so then, of course I said, yeah, let me pray about it.
Sure.
But
yeah.
There was very little prayer. But I did. Yeah. I thought what they were doing was super cool. And I actually, when we came back from Senegal, I went in to apply and talked to the manager at the time. And he just said, we're just not hiring right now. Like, just not. So it was something that both Michelle and I said we would enjoy doing. And so as soon as he said that, I said, yeah, I definitely want to do that. So that's how I got involved with the coffee shop, even though I don't have any food service background.
Right.
I don't have any professional coffee background, but I had like the mission of the coffee shop that was like right in with what I wanted to.
Yeah. Well, why don't you share a little bit? What is that mission?
I I think because it supports missions is one of its primary goals, which is kind of an awkward thing because people come in, they're so excited about what we do because we support missions. We don't make a ton of money.
Sure.
And so not a ton of money goes into missions, but what we do make, we try to put into missions.
Right.
Yeah, that was going to be one of my questions. I've got a good bit of years in just the food service, beverage service, however you want to look at it, background. And I know your margins are usually not very good, especially looking at y'all's prices. I'm like, there's no way. So, my biggest question was just going to be like, how do you sustain that? Like, how do you, from what I've heard, employees get paid well. The prices are not outrageous.
Right.
I can probably get 2 of your drinks for 1 Starbucks drink, which is crazy. But then, you also have that side of things where you have to save money for if equipment breaks or just a rainy day of whatever happens. And then also you have the mission side. So how does that all balance? And how did you guys come to the conclusion of that's how you're going to go about it?
The way that it really ends up being able to be sustainable is that the church has decided to make a pretty big investment into the coffee shop, and that is in the form of putting me on staff at the church.
Okay.
So pulling that payroll burden off of the coffee shop allows for us to be able to have our staff paid. I mean, with minimum wage, like it's just minimum wage plus tips.
Sure.
But it's minimum wage is pretty high right now. So
yeah.
So that's how that ends up working out so that we can do that, because they were already having to kind of put a lot of money into it because there are such low margins. They were already having to put money into it if there ever was equipment failure or even just sometimes just to make payroll.
Right.
And so they made a decision, the board got together and made a decision that they would put me on staff and make it more like also more intentional, like the church is wanting this to be an outreach.
Right.
And so that's where the mission side, the world mission side, I think is still kind of in development.
Sure.
But what we've decided to do is kind of, as we've seen where the need is, we've seen that there's a need immediately for like local outreach.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I was going to say is, I mean, you walk into Fresh Grounds and you see that mission. There's, you've got pictures up and you can tell, okay, this coffee shop is about the gospel. It's about Carmel. I mean, you guys have, some advertisement stuff going on there, but even more than that, this coffee shop is about the community. We talked about, I mean, it's one of the 4, as far as like public restaurant type places of,
that you should go to.
Yeah, established in our area. But even like, our church has partnered with Fresh Grounds before to basically have vouchers or different things for visitors, and it has served to help further the kingdom of God in other ways. The amount of conversations, that discipleship type conversations I've had sitting in that coffee shop is innumerable. Where I did my whole, basically the last 2 years of my degree was done in the Fresh Grounds coffee shop, because I would go in there on Tuesdays and that was my day to work on schoolwork, and I'd sit in there and order a coffee and knock out some papers. And that was a lot of my time spent there. And so, as even with the margins being where they're at, you guys are doing more, and I this, but you guys are doing more than just providing money when you can to international missions, but really establishing to further the kingdom in our area. Yeah.
And just outside, like every single time I go in there, I feel like I see either a pastor friend or just somebody, a church friend that I know is meeting with somebody.
Yeah.
Oswaldo's our Spanish pastor's wife, and that little group of, I guess you'd say the women that get together, they're always having somebody in there that I've never seen them before. They might go to the church, they might not, but they are great about outreach. And it's a great area. That's the thing, the coffee shop that I work at also kind of has that kind of feel. It's mission minded. And I've always heard, personally from behind the counter, and I'm sure you have as well, atmospheres like that they're just different.
Yeah.
You go in there, something's different about it, even if you're just getting a coffee, sitting down and having a conversation with somebody, and there's something about it.
Well, and even the work environment, like we've had people from our church that have worked. I think some of them still do. I don't know. I haven't seen them as much. They're in school a lot, but they come in and they've said how awesome the work environment is,
right.
and even just establishing that type of environment, like you said, is a ground, a fresh ground, a holy ground where the Holy Spirit can work and move. Yeah, they
pushed that one very hard. But yeah, and then also just availability. Like I've worked in secular places before where they're, I even had like a manager who was a Christian that went to a church, but you can't really, unless you're asked, you can't really talk about your faith or ask people about theirs. Yeah. But in something like this, like you can, especially if you get going on a conversation. I'm sure you guys have plenty of different times where you've just had conversations with people that just led into a gospel conversation out of nowhere. And you don't have to worry about it, which I think is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's one of the things that has become evident is a lot of my role is to be the person who gets to have those conversations.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's something that I really love. I like to be able to sit down and talk to someone, and really it ends up being like, in a sense, you're kind of like a bartender. Like people open up pretty quickly about stuff that's going on in their lives. And so we do a lot of listening, even from behind the bar. But also sometimes I'll go out and just sit and talk to people and just listen, because there's a lot of people who just, they've got stories, they got stuff going on, and they need someone to just hear their story. And those conversations will very often lead to a gospel conversation. And it's kind of one of the great things about a local coffee shop is that you have so many regulars. And so, we have
established relationships.
Yeah, it really is. And so I'm not having to like try to fast track this. So there's people that I talk to that I know one day I'm going to have a gospel conversation with them.
Right.
You're building that trust.
But I'm building some trust with them and having more like conversations about other stuff. Maybe they're into hunting or something, and I just listen to their hunting stories. But I know that one day there's going to be an opportunity for something, maybe because they have a need and they just say, hey, can you ask people at your church to pray for me? Which happens quite a bit. Or sometimes there's a financial need, and especially Michelle, my wife, she'll kind of take those on and think through those and pray about them. And she'll just find a way through her ways to like get money for someone who's just got like some like a devastating need in their life, or maybe they're not able to take care of their kids or not able to do something. And so we try not to just simply do the like go and be blessed.
Right.
And we try to
be more
if
intentional.
we see something that's like, okay, we could do something about this and we have the resources, then let's do it, even if it's not coming out of coffee shop funds.
Right.
Let's just do it. And we have opportunities that you wouldn't have because we end up knowing so many people.
Yeah.
Like we're surprised for being people who are not from Bonifay. We know everyone from Bonifay.
Oh yeah, you have one of the 4 places that everyone likes.
Right.
To go to. I remember, and I think this ties a lot into your youth and kind of youth ministry background that you have. But I remember when I was in high school, everyone and their mother, as soon as we got out of school bell rings, you're right. I mean, the coffee shop's right down the road from the high school, but everybody was there.
Not even 2 minutes. Yeah.
I mean, it's walking distance. Yeah. I mean, even for people who don't like to walk, it's walking distance.
Right. Which, how long has the coffee shop been there?
It started in June of 2020.
Okay. So COVID
terrible
baby.
time.
Yeah, COVID
terrible
baby
time.
coffee shop. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, cool.
It started in 2020?
Yeah.
Yeah, you wouldn't.
I wouldn't have been in high school.
You would have been out of high school by then.
I swear they did. Or I don't know.
Well, M&W was right there at one point.
Yeah, I remember M&W, but I remember Meredith, which she's somebody, one of my best friend's younger sister. I remember when she started working there. So maybe that's what I'm remembering, because I did help with FCA and a couple of different things in the high school.
Mayor B cupcakes.
Oh, yeah.
Meredith is a legend at Fresh Grounds. She essentially trained me. on the
That's
fly.
awesome.
Like
Yeah.
on our first day, we were scheduled for a 10-hour day, 7 to close, and had never pulled a shot on a like a commercial machine.
Oh yeah.
And she was just like, all right, do this, and now put 2 pumps of this, and I was just making drinks on the fly on a Friday morning.
That's cool.
Was there any kind of passion for coffee that you had before coming to
Yeah,
Fresh
that was going to be
Grounds?
where I asked. Where'd you
Absolutely.
discover your love for coffee?
I discovered my love for coffee in Brazil, probably.
Okay.
In Brazil, it's very common to drink a little, essentially kind of like an espresso shot, except that it's made through a drip, kind of like a pour over type thing.
Okay.
Very strong, very rich, not bitter though, and lots of sugar. Like that's kind of that, and that's probably what drew me in. But so as a pretty young person, like 8 or 9 years old, I started getting, if my parents were having a coffee, I would grab one too. And that's pretty common there for little kids to have coffee too. So that's just like, it's always just been part of my life. But in my college years, I lived in Minneapolis, and there was just a great coffie shop there that was just kind of those classic like 90s grunge era coffee shops. And I spent, I'd say, almost all of my non-school or work hours at this coffee shop. I was like one of those regulars, you just walk in and even like if you didn't have money, they're just like, oh, don't worry about it, it's on us today. So like, it was one of those kind of places. But at the time, all I drank was just like black coffee. Just that's all I drank. I think I was just trying to be cool. But later, I developed like a real affinity for espresso, and that happened overseas when I was living overseas. There's just like when you drink a coffee at a cafe in most other places in the world, like if you just order a coffee, you're probably just getting a double shot of espresso.
Right.
And so I just developed a real love for espresso, and especially European style. I've kind of started developing a little bit of flavor for more like modern espresso, but I just started just falling in love with it and got into just drinking espressos all the time.
Yeah. Where would you say, you've been to quite a few places, where would you say is the best coffee?
The best.
Here's the hot take.
The hot
Here
take.
it is.
Yeah. Maybe where you've been, or maybe even just like
What you've
where's
had.
the best coffee where's it come from? What kind of style would be your favorite?
I think that the best espresso is going to be Italian.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
I think that's going to be it. I
Sure.
think
That's my favorite.
I think the best, like, just sit down and have like a cup of coffee. I would probably go with like a cafe au lait from France.
France. Okay.
France.
I know it, like it starts to tick those boxes of like the burnt roast,
Right.
but I think when you mix it with just that little bit of hot milk, it works out nice. There's just something, and maybe it's because of the way that like they do cafes out on the street, and you can,
Right.
all
A
that
lot
plays
about the
into it.
environment. Yeah.
Coffee's very emotional. It ties to
Right.
people's hearts a lot. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, as we thank you for sharing your story, and as we just kind of think through kind of your story and how you got into the area and your love for coffee and your love for missions, we just kind of wanted to talk together, the three of us, just kind of more discussion. What does it look like for us as followers of Jesus to use the gifts and the passions that God has given us for his glory? Right? So you have a passion for missions. You also have a passion for coffee. And now you're in an environment where God has placed you that you can use both of those to glorify him. I have a passion for teaching the Bible. And so I'm a youth pastor, and now I do a podcast. But, how do we go about doing that? Right? So, Seth, David, just some thoughts on that as we kind of discuss what does it look like for us to do that together?
well, I think this is one of the most important questions that we should have to wrestle with, because I think that a lot of times we're kind of like seeking for like, well, what's God's will for my life? Like, what does he want me to do?
Right. Yeah.
And I think a lot of times it's already in your hands. It's like, do this thing that you already do, but instead of doing it for your own glory or for like a career move, do it for the kingdom of heaven, which is going to change how you do it as well.
Yeah.
Right.
You're not going to be doing it with the same motivations. But yeah, for me, as far as like doing coffee, I didn't consider myself like a coffee expert.
Yeah.
I certainly didn't go into it with an expertise. I just went into it with just passion. But I think even like super practically, when I'm making drinks, when I'm behind the bar and making drinks, it really matters to me to do it well, to do it even like right down to the stirring and like to do all the little things well. If my shot pulls a little too long, I'm like, man, this guy's gonna notice this. Like this matters, you know.
Right.
But also it opens then doors for conversations. And so I think that is like on a super practical level, just doing what I do for God's kingdom instead of just like checking a box. But then when it comes down to like how do you apply it more for gospel purposes, you have to be able to be open to relationships in whatever it is that you're doing, because we're not going to have a whole lot of opportunities to share the gospel without having relationships.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome. I obviously, like I said, I've worked at a coffee shop now for coming up on a year, and worked at the one at the school for half a year as well. So I've got a little time under my belt. But what it really pulls down for me, not necessarily, when I'm at the coffee shop, I don't have as much of a passion for making coffee there. Whenever I do it, it's like when I'm at home and I do all of the steps. You know, you spritz the beans and you weigh them out and you do the grind. I'm not doing that at the coffee shop. I mean, we're trying to fly. I'm trying to do the best that I can while also doing it in a timely manner.
Yeah.
But it comes back just to my background within just hospitality in general. You know, that started for me with culinary, obviously, and I've done all the way from regular back of the house in a restaurant to front of the house to management to catering to in-house parties. Done a lot of those as well, and I definitely would say I tend more to liking those. But it comes down to hospitality, like you said, building those relationships, and really allowing an avenue where, you know, people see at church and they're like, yeah, they have what am I thinking of? They already have something in their head about what they think about a church or, you know, a pastor or whatever. But being able to meet them at a place that some of them kind of have an addiction. Some people definitely do have a caffeine addiction.
It's a bit of a problem.
It is. Yeah. But being able to meet them there and just say, hey, we have a common, you know, we like coffee. You like 30 pumps of vanilla in yours.
Yeah, right.
But we like coffee, at least in your head. Yeah. So, you know, let's talk about that. And how do we navigate this into being intentional is more of the word. Yeah. That's been our church's one of the biggest just emphasis this past year is just intentionality in anything that you do. You can be in the perfect situation to share the gospel, to have a personal relationship with somebody and lead that into just talking with them and sharing with them. Yeah. But if you're not intentional, you know, it really doesn't matter. Ultimately, you can't have personal evangelism without the personal side of it.
Yeah. I have a book. It's up on my shelf right there. It's called Turning Everyday Conversations into Gospel Conversations. Yeah. And one of the keys there is establishing the common ground, establishing relationship. Now there's an aspect of it, as you know, even as we've been walking through 2 Timothy, of being bold for the gospel. You know, you can have all these relationships and never turn them into a gospel conversation, and that would not be fulfilling the Great Commission, right? And so there's a boldness aspect. But I think a lot of the times people put so much weight on that they don't realize, like, if you already have an established relationship with somebody, you find the common ground, it's easy to navigate to the gospel when you're being intentional about it.
Yeah. And we've never talked about this, so, you know, we'll see about how we both land on this, but, and David also, you can throw in your thoughts, but Acts 1:8 is one of my favorites. Yeah. Just evangelism. I know people go to Matthew 28 a lot, but Acts 1:8 to me gives it more of a everyday feel, because what it says is, you will be my witnesses in Jerusalem and Judea and Samaria and to the ends of the earth. And I always see "and" there. And it doesn't say "or." It doesn't say pick which
Right.
one works best for you or wherever you're at, but it's the idea that Jesus is like, I've already sent you as you are going, not using as you are going as an excuse to do, well, I'm here, so I'm only going to do it here. He doesn't have the mindset of, use it as an excuse, but he said, as you are going, because he has the understanding that you're going to be going because he's sent, share the gospel wherever you're at. Don't wait until you get to the Samaria to do it.
Right.
Do it in the area that you're in, then do it in a greater area and a greater area after that.
Yeah. Well, and that kind of makes me think as I'm thinking through some other ideas. David, you shared when you came back from the mission field, you were working at a warehouse in Chipley, a factory job. Like you said, it was a good job, but not necessarily your passion, not what you were excited about.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a lot of people that are in that realm of life that maybe they're in a job, they're doing some things. Maybe it's the season of life that they're in. Maybe it's just kind of where the chips have fallen as far as like, got to provide for my family. This is the way that I'm going to go about doing that. And they don't have that just incredible passion for what they're at. So what would you say to somebody that's in that circle, and we can discuss this as well, to develop that mindset of, even in this, I can do this for the glory of God? What would you say to that person?
I mean, I lived that.
Yeah.
And it was, it was like way out of my realm. I was making quilts on a big giant machine that sewed quilts.
Wow.
And so like nothing that I knew anything about.
Yeah.
And nothing that I particularly had any interest in.
You're not a quilt connoisseur.
I'm not a quilter. I have never spent any time in quilting circles. And so it's a whole new realm for me.
Hey, we have a sewing ministry that make quilts. You want me to get you their information?
If you give me some contact information.
I got you.
Yeah. I'm assuming there's a lot of men my age that are
It's not just senior adult ladies.
Yeah, I figured. It's a pretty common thing with men that are in their late 40s. But it was not something that I was super interested in or cared that much about. But I started seeing, we didn't have a lot of interaction either. I worked mostly by myself. So then it's like super limited. Like, how do you even share the gospel?
Yeah.
But part of the way that I started noticing is that people noticed my work ethic. They paid attention to that.
Yeah.
And it was pretty easy to have even reasonable excuses for why you weren't going to work too hard in a place like that. But people noticed my work ethic, and sometimes that would even lead to questions like just literally like, why do you work so hard?
Yeah.
And so there were lots of chances for that, even in something that I wasn't super interested in. We were also allowed to have music at our station. So my music was always worship music. Yeah. And people would walk by and they would say, hey, what is this? And sometimes they had like a religious or cultural religious background, but not like church attenders. Right. And they'd be like, I kind of like that. What is that? And so it would open up conversations even in those realms, even though we didn't have a lot of interaction. And I think that just, you have to take those opportunities that are there, but it is intentionality. It is like deciding, I may not be passionate about what I'm doing, but I'm passionate about the gospel. Yeah. And so you bring the passion about the gospel to the thing that you're not passionate about, and then you don't worry about whether you're passionate about doing it, because sometimes you go through times where you just got to pay the bills. Right. You got to work wherever wherever they're employing people.
Yeah. And I think that's really, really, really telling as well, as like even something as simple as like, I'm not always passionate about, and you can ask my wife, I'm very rarely, if at all, passionate about doing the dishes at my house. Like even something small like that. But what does it look like for me to glorify God, even in the small everyday things, and to do that in a way that brings Him all the praise and glory? And I think it's exactly what you said. I'm passionate about the gospel. I'm passionate about Jesus. I'm passionate about what He has done in my life, the grace that He has shown me. And so I'm going to emulate that. I'm going to imitate that, and reflect His character in every situation and everything that I do. As I'm walking through the Walmart, I'm going to reflect His character and then bring Him glory in the midst of everything.
And I do think that's one of the keys that I think makes it difficult for people when you don't have it in that order. When you're trying to say, I will bring the gospel to whatever I care about,
right,
or wherever I think it fits, then it's a lot more challenging to try to like force it into those things.
Right.
But when you are truly like, I'm motivated by the kingdom of heaven, then that like the Sermon on the Mount is such a great challenging place to be, because it's like all the areas of life that we all are terrible at. And Jesus says,
that's
like,
right.
in every one of these areas of life, it's got to be the kingdom of heaven. Like that's what we're about. And so he's saying, like, bring that passion to it. Instead of just saying, well, this is what the law says I can get away with. He's like, no, it's way different than that. It's like, flip that around. That's how we're going to live.
And that's great too, because it's like you said, it's getting the order right. Where I think we have a tendency to say, well, when God puts me in the position, or God puts me in the career that I want to be in, then I'll use that to glorify God.
Right.
And it's like, no, we seek to glorify God and make his name known wherever we're planted, as we're going, like you said, Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, to the ends of the earth. And then let God work within that. And you never know, God may change your passion for whatever it is that you're doing.
That's true. I might be a quilter someday.
Hey, that's right. That's right.
They got the full 360 on that.
Yeah.
But I think the thing with it is just it's such an American, not even just American, but just like a 21st century mindset of like, it's all about me and what I want to do.
Yeah.
I mean, you look back even just to biblical times, and whatever your father was, that's pretty much what you were.
Yeah.
You didn't really get to choose. You didn't get to say, I had a bad relationship with my father, and he was a carpenter.
Right.
So
I'm not a carpenter
I'm not going to be a carpenter.
Right.
They're like, no, you're going to be a carpenter.
Yeah.
So it's more of a idea of, where am I at? It doesn't matter, if I've made bad decisions and now I have to work at, I don't know, I don't want to throw any shade to any jobs out there, but
Fresh grounds.
there you go. But I've got to work somewhere that I don't necessarily want to work, but how is it not about me? That's kind of got to be more of the question, is how can I make this not about me?
Well, I think about when in the book of Acts, I'm reading through the book of Acts, that Paul, he gets established, I believe it's in Ephesus. I can't remember exactly, but I believe it's in Ephesus. He stays with Priscilla and Aquila, who are there. And the reason that he stays there is because he's doing ministry, but they have the same career path as him. He's a tent maker.
Right.
He makes tents. And I would venture to say, knowing what I know about Paul, reading his letters, he wasn't probably very passionate about making tents. That wasn't like, that was his day job that fueled what he got to do for the kingdom of God. And I think going in it with that mindset, like, I'm doing these things to the glory of God, to the best of my ability, so that God would be glorified in everything that I do. And it allows me it fuels my life to live for him each and every day.
Yeah, I think there will be, when you get it, like, let's say you're in a career field that you're just talented at, and that's what you end up doing, but you're like, I don't have a passion for this. I think God changes your heart and just who you are overall, if that's your goal, is to glorify him. And if you're doing that in the field that you're in, and your mindset and your what you're focusing on, your priorities shift, and he shifts those for you, then you're not going to be as miserable, quote unquote, at where you're at. You're going to see it, and you're going to be joyfully going to a job that before you didn't necessarily love.
Yeah.
But now you love to do it, not because you love the work, but you love what you get to do with inside the work.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, there's certainly days working as a coffee shop manager that are not super passionate for me.
100%.
Right. Yeah.
There's certainly times where I don't want to make another one of whatever drink it is that's popular at the time, and it's
Pumpkin
very
spice.
Yeah.
No spices mentioned here.
Yeah. Caramel apple butter, Deanna. I don't want to make any more of this.
No more.
I'm just kidding.
But it's there's a lot of times where it's really easy to become cynical and to become resentful towards your work, or even in some cases you get frustrated with your coworkers, or just the system, or not having enough of what you need. And so it's very easy to have those kind of days And so you have to have something that's deeper, that's going to push you along. Because if you feel like, even if you did have a change of career or a new opportunity or something, if you're not bringing that with you, that passion for the kingdom of heaven, for the gospel, then you're just going to get into that. And after the luster wears off, it's going to be the same thing. Yeah. And you're just going to be like, I don't think I want to do this anymore.
I couldn't imagine being in any circle of life without the motivator of the gospel.
I can't.
You know, like I mean, people do it all the time. People need Jesus. People need the gospel. Those are people that are in those situations. But like, man, everything I do, the gospel is my driving force. I may not do it well, you know, like I'm not doing this, you know, perfectly by any means. But that's my primary motivator in all situations and scenarios. And so, I think that's a good word.
There's a verse. I've got a couple of them pulled up. We're not going to go through all of them, but there is one just based off of what we're talking about that I think is maybe encouraging for someone that's listening, or just something that the three of us or whoever's listening could take to somebody else that might be dealing with this. But it's Romans 12. It's verses 4 through 8, give or so. But he says, just for each of us has one body with many members. These members do not have the same function. So in Christ, though many form one body and each member belongs to the other, we have different gifts according to the grace given to each of us. If your gift is prophesying, then prophesy in accordance to your faith. If it is serving, then serve. If it is teaching, then teach. And encourage, to encourage. Giving, then give generously. To lead, to do it diligently. To show mercy, and do it cheerfully. So, you know, the verse is really just talking about whatever your gifts are, no matter what your preference is. Do what your gifts are. God gave those gifts to you for a reason.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think one more thing is that ties into my love for youth ministry, for student ministry, and I know that's what you guys do here. I want kids to grab on to that.
Yeah.
I want them to grab on to, my life is about the kingdom of heaven. And that's what's going to direct whatever career path I choose. That's what's going to direct my spouse choice. That's what's going to direct how I spend my money, how I give my money. Instead of it being like trying to cram my Christian life into what I already just want to do. I want them to get that order right.
Yep.
Because I've seen a lot of students who have tried to do I want to be a good person who people think highly of as a Christian. And so I'm going to try to cram these things into whatever I want to do.
Right.
And it becomes a really difficult thing for them because they are going into it with good motivation, but it's such a heavy burden.
Yeah.
And I want them to grab onto the passion and let that lead them into their career choices, and also understand that you don't have to make the perfect choice every time.
Yeah.
As long as your passion is towards Christ, I'd rather you have your mindset that you are pointing your life towards the kingdom of heaven, even if you're not making a good financial choice about which career to go into.
It is ultimately the better choice in all circumstances. And you mentioned Sermon on the Mount. In Matthew 6, I believe it's 17, in the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus says, do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth.
Right.
Because that's where moth and rust destroy. But rather lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven. So even though in a worldly sense it may not be the best financial decision, it's the best eternal decision. Seek first the kingdom of God, and all the other things will be added to you.
Right.
And like you said, getting the right things in the right order, that's how you have a joy-filled, Christ-centered life that matters and lasts and is raising up treasures in heaven.
Yeah, and just that, I mean, I've seen, this is the major part of my testimony with more so, after salvation, but, I went into culinary and I did well. I've got different pieces of paper that said I did well. But, it was, and I love the way that you illustrated that, was I was just trying to cram my Christian life into what I already wanted to do and had established. And whenever really God got a hold of me, it was just hey, what I have planned for you cannot be crammed into something else. It has to be the thing that other things fit into.
Right. Yeah.
So I love the way that that's illustrated. I'm going to use that several times. Go for it.
Well, as we come to a close, ironically, I have a meeting at Fresh Grounds, and so we're gonna bring this to a close, land the plane. But before we do, David, thank you again so much for sharing. It's really cool to hear your story and your heart, your motivation behind what you do and why you do it, and just your heart to see other followers of Jesus get that order right. To make their life something that's focused on Christ and keep Him the first priority in everything that we do. We are going to kind of close out on a little bit of a lighter note. We've got some. We did this a couple weeks ago, but we've got some coffee hot takes.
Oh, these are so fun.
And you said you're not an expert, a connoisseur, but you're the expert among us, and so
and I do have
we're
opinions,
going to walk through these.
So
of course.
I'm an expert at having an opinion.
There you go. So Seth's going to walk us through these.
Exactly. So I've got 10. We'll see how many we can get through.
Probably not 10.
We probably won't be able to get through 10, but I'm going to pull a good few out of here that I think we can have a good cup of coffee.
That's right.
All right.
So the first one we're going to do is, let's see. Probably should have thought about this a little bit more. Okay, so first one's going to be, and this is coming, I think we're all in like the median realm. We're not like the super snob, but we're also not what's the difference between a frappe and a latte? Right. We're somewhere in the middle. So the first one's going to be, you can love coffee and still put creamer into it. Thoughts?
Go ahead, David.
I think you can.
Yeah,
I think you can.
That
for me is you can love coffee and still put creamer into it.
I would agree with that. I think the key point in that is, do you love the coffee or do you love the creamer, and the coffee's the avenue for the creamer, or is the creamer something that adds to and elevates the coffee that you're drinking?
It being a flavored creamer maybe kind of changes things a little, gets you more towards like, maybe you just like the taste of
the creamer,
whatever the creamer is. Mm-hmm. And it's just helping you get that caffeine in your body. But I think most people who drink coffee with cream, they like coffee.
Right. Yeah. I've heard way too many times of someone coming in and they just get, they want a regular medium-sized coffee. And I'm like, do you want any cream or sugar? And they're like, no, I want to drink coffee. I don't want to drink creamer.
They're like offended by it.
I'm like, we put like maybe a tenth of the amount of liquid being creamer, but okay.
Yeah.
I went to Waffle House this morning and I didn't even let them ask the question. They're like, what do you want to drink? I was like, coffee, black. I don't want anything in it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that you can have creamer and still appreciate coffee.
Okay. The next one we're going to go to is cold brew is overrated.
Oh, wow.
Oh, what do you think?
Man, this is a big one.
I have strong opinions.
This is a big one. I'm afraid to share my opinion before you guys share yours.
No, go ahead.
I think we
won't judge you.
Okay. Yeah. I think cold brew is not overrated, but I do think that given the amount of work it takes to make cold brew, I'm not certain that it's worth it.
Really?
Yeah.
What, are you a fan?
I like cold brew. I don't generally drink iced coffee.
Right, you're not a cold coffee guy.
I think cold brew is I think it's better than taking your old coffee and putting it over ice, which was kind of the old way to do iced coffee. It was like yesterday's coffee that was left over from the urn. And so that's not going to be as good.
Right.
It's going to be a lot more acidic, and you're just going to get a whole bunch of just the not nice flavors of coffee. It tends to be hard on the stomach. I think cold brew solves some of those problems by not heating up the coffee. But it's a good bit of work.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I despise cold brew.
Really? What is it about it?
Well,
I want to hear.
So when cold brew came out, that it had this research, this big push in recent years. I was like, oh yeah, it's the new thing. I'm going to drink it. Especially I always enjoyed finding a coffee shop that did the nitro cold brew.
Loved the nitro
because it you get to see all this stuff, and I'll enjoy a nitro cold brew. I don't put that necessarily in the same category as just your average everyday cold brew, but it's just I don't like it. It doesn't taste good. It tastes like old coffee.
You still get that old coffee.
Yeah,
feel
and so if I want coffee, I'm gonna get freshly made coffee. I don't want old, cold refrigerator coffee.
Right.
Have you ever tried it with sweet cream, without sweet cream?
Yeah, there's a different palate, like a different flavor to a cold brew than to, even if you were to
Anything
take
else.
old coffee
Right,
and
yeah.
pour it over ice. Like it's a different flavor.
Right.
It draws out, and I know that's kind of a pull for a lot of people. Like I like what the flavors that it draws out. I don't like it.
Interesting. I think that's why it makes it worth it. Now, I still think it's overrated of how much I hear people say, "Oh, cold brews are the best."
Yeah.
But not overrated in the sense of it's still good. I just don't think it's like the end all be all. So I kind of fall somewhere in the middle. But when it comes to cold brew for me, coming from an iced guy, I know both of you are hot guys, so coming from an iced guy, I do. I didn't even realize it. I honestly think if I get a good cold brew, I would rather have that than anything else. Now, this is also coming from a person that I don't love lattes for the sheer fact that I don't like a lot of cream inside of my coffee.
I've heard you talk about this on air, and I think it's super fascinating.
Yeah, so
I have the same feeling, but for a different reason.
Okay.
Oh, what's your reason?
I just like that much milk. Like, it's not about the fact that it came out of another animal or anything like that. I don't have that.
That was you. That was that's right.
I just, man, that's a lot of, like, I'm not going to get a 24-ounce drink just in general.
Yeah.
But if I were to get one, like, that's a lot of milk.
Yeah.
And, like, I barely drink water. Never mind milk. Like, that's just, like, way out there for me. So it's a real stretch.
I like a latte, assuming that the flavors in the milk don't overpower the coffee. Like I still want to be able to taste the bitterness of the coffee.
And maybe it comes better out with a hot coffee because you have the steamed milk and it foams up, so it takes up more volume than I guess you still have the ice too, so maybe it doesn't do anything different.
I don't know. It's pretty close. Yeah.
But I don't prefer a lot of cream. That's why I like cold brew. But I've not found too many cold brews that I actually do like.
Yeah.
I think some people, I don't know how you guys do it. I don't like ours, but I like y'all's. But I don't like the mugs over in Chipley, and I don't like a lot of places around here.
I don't like a lot of the cold brew I try. I think ours is good.
What is your process? Because all we do is we put it in this big bag of the grounded coffee, and then we let it steep for 48 hours.
Yeah, same process.
Okay. So you just have a better bean is what I'm hearing. So
yeah, I mean, we used to use a pretty premium bean, but I found one that was a little bit less expensive that has a lot of the same characteristics.
Right. Yeah, I think sometimes when you get premium beans, especially whenever you do it with cold brew, I think cold brew can only take so much.
That's what I think.
There's just so much that can
At some point, there's a cap to it.
There's definitely a cap.
Yeah.
Versus if it were to be hot, and you can get all of it.
Yeah.
But that's where you really benefit from that, like, societal push for it.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
like, as long as it has, you could
There's a
serve
back
like
end,
yesterday's
for sure.
coffee and still get away with calling it cold brew.
Right.
And as long as people think it's that,
Right.
Yeah.
you're fine.
That might be it. Okay, so we're gonna go to the next one.
All right. Let's
I think we have time for one more.
Let's do two more. We can do two
Okay.
more. I
Okay.
promise.
You gotta be
We'll
quick.
be quick.
Yeah.
Coffee should taste good without it being complicated. Good coffee should taste good without being complicated. We talked about this already, so
Yeah.
I think it absolutely should be good without being complicated.
Yeah. I think you can have the simplest brewing process, and good coffee is good coffee.
Yeah, exactly. I think good coffee, and I also think that it doesn't necessarily have to like tick all the boxes of like what people are looking for at the more like high level of trying to find certain notes. I think just like good coffee that's pretty fresh, it should taste pretty good.
Yeah.
right.
What is your favorite brewing method?
My favorite brewing method is, I think it's probably espresso is probably my favorite brewing method. But if I'm going to go with like any other form of non-espresso, I do like doing a pour over.
You do?
Yeah, I like doing it like for my own self. I don't find that it makes an enormous difference. And actually, you guys talked about this.
Yeah,
on
we
air,
did.
right?
It's just it seems like a lot of work.
But it is a lot of work. I think the biggest factor is that you can control the temperature. And so higher temperature, you're going to get more bitter.
Right.
And so I think you can control your temperature, and that's something that I get a little bit of a smoother coffee out of.
Sure.
I got you. Last one.
All right.
Okay. I also agree that.
Okay.
I think that it should. if you have to put a lot of work into something, it's actually not that good. It's just about your process. But
yeah, well, and I'll say this too. There's a couple people that I'll watch like on YouTube as they make coffee and stuff. There's a whole realm surrounding like the complexity of brewing coffee.
Yeah,
they have like competitions, and there's like people will get down to like when you get the grounds or the beans, it'll say like, here's some characteristics like the nutty flavor, the fruity flavor, or whatever, the chocolatey. And they're like, okay, if I add this like half a teaspoon of this and a quarter of a teaspoon of this, it'll enhance this particular flavor. And they get so far into the complexity of it's like at this point we're doing chemistry, and we're not doing coffee. And so we're
trying to pull flavors that are not coffee,
right? Exactly. Yes,
like trying to find like raspberry in the coffee bean.
Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy. All right, last one. Where did it go? There it is. The perfect cup of coffee is more about the moment than the flavor.
Oh man.
Think about you're sitting in France.
Right.
You're looking at the Eiffel Tower.
Right.
You have a nice cup of coffee. But it's not that great of coffee.
It's like way over roasted.
Right.
I don't know if I would say perfect, but you kind of mentioned this earlier. There is an emotional aspect to coffee drinking, and there are some moments, there's some mornings where you just the smell of coffee and the sip of that nice warm drink in the morning or whenever. There's moments where it means more, where it hits you in a different way. I don't think that necessarily elevates the flavor. It's the same cup of coffee that you had yesterday, but there's something about that emotional pull that can make it mean more, whether or not it changes how it actually feels or tastes.
Yeah, I think there is an emotional side to it. I lean towards, it does matter, like where you are when you have it, because there's so much emotion, I think, for a lot of people. Now, some people are just like down in their coffee.
Right.
But I think that there is a lot for me. I even like, I've had really bad coffee that was like a really special moment.
Right.
When we were living overseas, we would go out into the villages sometimes to do like outreaches out there and build churches or do some kind of like a well project. And when you get up in the morning and it's just like instant Nescafe coffee, but man, it's this beautiful, it's the only time of the day when it's a little bit coolish, sort of like 80 or 90. Right. And
that's like coolish.
Little breeze. You're under a tree. Like when you get up and you have that cup of coffee, even though it's just like horrible, just terrible. And you don't even have like real cream or anything. There is something that you're still kind of like, I almost would rather have that there than have an incredible cup of coffee like just sitting in my house by myself.
Or just driving in traffic.
Like it's just it's in your travel mug. You don't even care,
and you're just mad someone cut you off. That's what I think of. I think of mainly you have the older generations, the seasoned saints. I think of like
my quilting friends.
Oh goodness. I think of like my grandparents and my mom's mom and dad. They still every single morning they get up right around sunrise and they watch the sunrise together while drinking a cup of coffee. And I've done it several different times in my devotional, have a cup of coffee. Like those are the best. And I'm not saying that it's good coffee at all. I don't know. But then I think about other times where I've gone to a coffee shop. I paid way too much money for a cup of coffee. I took a sip. I'm like, that's really good. And then I get into the car and then someone cuts me off. And now the coffee just
doesn't matter anymore.
So we got taught something about this within, just culinary and food. There is a chemical reaction that kind of fights within your taste buds and just everything in your head, hearing, smell. That's why, like,
based on emotion,
you could have a Michelin star dish in an alley, right? And let's say you don't smell anything, but just looking around, it's not going to taste as good as if you were in a really nice restaurant where they have the ambiance on a certain to a certain degree, and you've got the
and
lighting
then they
at a
serve you a
certain level.
Baconator, and you're like,
Oh my gosh,
great.
this is the best Baconator I've ever had in my life.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think just within that, we are complex human beings, but also there is just a working within every sense that you have that makes something good or not good. If you smell something that smells really good, but then it tastes bad, it's going to taste a little bit better than if you didn't smell it beforehand. That's why in the Mexican restaurants, they have the fajitas the way that they do, that you smell it and it gives you just that aroma of what's going on. But
makes you think you like onions when you don't.
I love onions.
I like it.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
Especially when they're in ring form.
There you go. Well, awesome. Well, David, thank you so much for coming on today.
I enjoyed it.
A lot of fun, and maybe we'll have you on again in the future.
I would love it.
Not maybe, definitely in the future. But thank you all, and that was a good cup of coffee.
That was a good cup of coffee.
You did it! Congratulations! World's best cup of coffee. Great job, everybody. It's great to